Have you ever stopped to think about how the internet actually works? I mean, really works? How can one single physical web server, a box sitting in a data center somewhere, run hundreds, maybe even thousands of totally different websites all at the same time? It seems kind of impossible, doesn't it? Well, today we're going to pull back that curtain and solve that exact mystery. So let's just jump right in. This is the big question, right? And it's not just some technical trivia. This is the very idea that makes web hosting affordable and scalable for everyone, from a personal blog to a giant company. How do we get one machine to pretend it's thousands? To get our heads around this, we're going to use a super simple analogy for this whole explainer. I want you to picture our web server as a giant apartment building. Now, this building has just one street address. That's its IP address. But inside, you've got tons of individual apartments, each one with its own tenant. Okay, so let's put ourselves in the shoes of a server administrator for a second. They've got this brand new, powerful machine, basically an empty apartment building, and a whole line of people, or websites, waiting to move in. This is the real puzzle. Every single website, or tenants, they need their own private space. You can't have the files for site A getting all mixed up with the files for site B. They have to be completely separate, even though they're all living under the same roof. So how does the building's front desk know where to send all the mail and visitors? The answer is this really elegant piece of server tech called a virtual host. This is the magic ingredient. It's like the building's concierge, and its job is to flawlessly direct every single request to exactly the right apartment. It might feel like magic, but really it's just a clever set of rules. And here's the more official take on it. The key phrase right there is giving the sensation. That's everything. Because to the rest of the world, your website and my website look like they're on totally separate computers, even if we're actually neighbors on the very same server. It's this illusion that powers so much of the web we use every day. Now, there are a few ways to set up these virtual apartments. You could give every single site its own IP address. That's like giving each apartment its own unique street address. But that gets really expensive, and it's a huge waste of addresses. You could also use different ports, but that's just clunky for users. The real game changer, the method that pretty much everyone uses today, is name-based virtual hosting. That's where all the sites share one IP and one port. So, if they're all sharing the same address, how in the world does the server know which site to show? Well, it's actually way simpler than you might think. Each website just gets its own tiny configuration file. It's just a plain text file that acts as a simple set of instructions for the server. This little file gives the server three really important commands. First, virtual host adds 80 tells it, hey, listen for visitors at the main entrance, which for normal web traffic is port 80. Then, document root is basically the apartment number. It points to the exact folder where all of that website's files are stored. But the most important instruction of all is the server name. And this brings us right back to our apartment building. When you type www.example.com into your browser, that request shows up at the server's main address. The server then just glances at the server name in that request and matches it to the name on one of its mailboxes. It finds the right one and says, aha, this message is for the tenant in apartment 3B, and then it sends it to the correct document root folder. It's as simple as that. Okay, great. Our apartment building is fully functional. All the visitors can find the right apartment. But what about security? We need to make sure the mail being delivered is private and secure, right? In the digital world, that's where HTTPS comes in. The difference between HTTP and HTTPS is honestly, it's night and day. With standard HTTP, any data you send, passwords, credit card info, it's all sent in plain text. It's like sending a postcard that anyone along the way can read. HTTPS takes that postcard and seals it inside a locked, encrypted envelope. And you'll see the port even changes from 80 to 44.3 to signal that it's a secure connection. So what is HTTPS, really? It's not some brand new thing. It's just the standard HTTP we all know, but it's running on top of a security layer called TLS, which stands for Transport Layer Security. And that layer, that's what does all the heavy lifting of encryption and making sure everyone is who they say they are. These three pillars right here are what makes things like online banking and shopping even possible. Confidentiality means your password is just gibberish to eavesdroppers. Integrity means no one can change that bank transfer amount while it's in transit. And authentication? That's how your browser knows for sure that you're connected to the real mybank.com and not some convincing imposter. And how is all that trust established?
It's done through something called a digital certificate. The best way to think of it is like a website's passport. It's issued by a trusted third party, a certification authority, and it officially proves that the website is who it claims to be. That's what gives your browser the green light to trust it and set up that secure connection.
Fantastic. So our server is hosting multiple sites and they're all secure. The last big job for any good server admin is monitoring. We need to know what's actually happening inside our building.
And this is where server logs come into play. Just like our building's security cameras, logs keep a super detailed record of every single thing that happens on the server. Every visitor, every file they look at, and maybe most importantly, every single error. So let's say you're a website owner. One of the first questions you're going to have is about your visitors, right? Who's coming to my site? What pages are the most popular? Where are they all coming from? Well, all of those answers are sitting in one file, the access log. Every time a visitor requests a page or an image or anything at all from your site, a new line gets added to this file. It's the raw data that powers all those website analytics charts. But what about when things go wrong? You know that feeling? A page isn't loading, a feature is broken, or the whole site just seems off? Where do you even start looking for the problem? You start with the error.log. This file is basically the server's diary of every problem it runs into. Anytime there's an issue, a bad piece of code, a missing file, a config problem, it writes a detailed message right here. For any developer trying to fix something, this is always the first place you look. So let's just take a step back and look at what we've built here. We've just put together the fundamental toolkit for running the modern web. It really is a combination of efficient organization, tough security, and just keeping a careful eye on everything. And here it is, the whole thing in a nutshell. Virtual hosts are the individual apartments in our building. HTTPS provides the secure private mail delivery for every tenant, and the server logs are the security cameras, keeping an eye on everything to make sure it all runs just the way it's supposed to. These three things, they're the foundation.
So there you have it. We've demystified how one single machine can power thousands of different websites. It isn't magic. It's just a really logical, elegant system of organization, security, and observation. These are the core building blocks of the internet. So I guess the only question left is, what are you going to build with them? Thanks for joining me.